My name is Hannah Miller. I thought my parents leaving my college graduation early was just bad timing. It wasn't. It was the first move in a plan that cost me my job, froze my bank account, and forced me to prove my own identity. If this sounds familiar, tell me your story in the comments. After the ceremony, my parents left without saying congratulations. The lawn outside the main hall was packed with families waiting for photos. Gowns brushed against folding chairs, names were being called out by relatives who kept losing each other in the crowd. I held my diploma folder against my chest and scanned faces until I spotted my parents standing a few steps away with my sister, all three of them angled toward her phone, smiling. They looked settled, like this was the moment they had planned for. I walked over, still half listening to another graduate talking about job offers. My mother glanced at her watch before I reached them. "We're late. Call us later." That was it. No hug, no pause. She slid her phone into her purse. My father already had his car keys out. He nodded once, like we'd passed each other in a grocery store aisle, then turned and kept walking. Someone bumped my shoulder. A friend from my program leaned in. "Your parents already left?" They had somewhere to be. She waited, like she expected more, then said she'd text me later and moved on. The crowd shifted again. I stood where I was, gown still on, tassel twisted the wrong way. My phone buzzed. "Proud of you." No emoji, no typo, just that sentence sent from my mom's number. It felt automated, like something scheduled between appointments. Another notification slid in before I could lock the screen. An email from the University Finance Office. Subject line: confirmation of family authorization for student loan records. It listed my name and a digital signature time-stamped earlier that afternoon. I didn't remember signing anything. A temporary sign flapped on a pole near the parking lot. Camera maintenance in progress. The corner had peeled off and someone had taped it back crooked. I called my mother. It went straight to voicemail. My sister's social media post went up while I was still standing there. A family photo, everyone smiling, captioned, "So proud of our graduate." No tag. Comments already rolling in. Another buzz, a bank alert. Contact information updated. At that point, the loudspeaker near the stage chimed in, cheerful and loud, reminding families about campus family support services and alumni resources. The timing was almost impressive. I checked the bank message again, thumb hovering over the call button. People were folding chairs now. Security was guiding traffic. A man asked if I needed help finding my ride. The voicemail beeped when I tried my dad's number. My phone kept vibrating. Missed calls, alerts, a calendar reminder I didn't recognize. The tassel slid down the side of my face as I started walking toward the bus stop. Notifications stacked on the screen. I turned it face down and kept going, pressing the power button until the vibration stopped, stepping off the curb while the crosswalk sign flashed. The apartment felt smaller the next morning. Not different, just tighter. The same table, the same chair pulled out too far because the leg wobbled. Rent was due in 2 weeks. My phone stayed silent. No missed calls, no follow-up message explaining the rush. The support transfer that usually hit my account on Mondays didn't arrive. At the cafe, the manager slid a schedule across the counter and said hours were being cut. He avoided eye contact while explaining it wasn't personal. Customers complained about foam ratios and card readers, while the register froze twice. During a break, I checked my balance again. Still nothing. A family group chat lit up mid-shift. Photos from a dinner I hadn't been invited to. Everyone seated, plates half full, my parents at the center. A cousin commented that it was nice to see everyone together. Someone replied that I'd chosen good. Don't argue either. Collect. She listed it like steps. Emails, statements, messages, screenshots, dates. She said to keep everything, even if it felt pointless. People believe parents by default, she added. Back at the apartment that night, I logged into the student portal. The loan section had a new confirmation note. Family authorization approved. The signature line carried my name, signed digitally from an IP address tied to my parents' house. The timestamp matched graduation day. Another email followed within minutes. The bank wanted verification. 10 days. If unresolved, the account would be restricted. I called customer service. After the automated menu and hold music, a representative picked up. Her voice was steady. "It's a standard family authorization." "I didn't authorize it." She repeated the phrase slower this time, like volume might help. A case number was assigned. Instructions followed. Upload ID, submit a statement, wait. The next morning, the support transfer officially failed. An automated notice explained the interruption and suggested contacting the account holder. The account holder was me. At the cafe, a regular asked if everything was okay because I'd forgotten his name. I wrote it on the cup anyway. Another family photo popped up online. Same table, same caption style. Still no tag. HR sent a follow-up email requesting documentation to close out the family inquiry. The subject line included the word well-being. I forwarded it to Maya without comment. At the bank branch, the line wrapped past the brochure rack. A poster near the door promised financial clarity. When my number was called, the teller scanned my ID and frowned. "There's a pending verification." "I know." She turned the screen so I could see the alert. 10 days. The bank branch smelled like disinfectant and paper. A laminated sign near the door said, "Appointments were encouraged but not required." The woman at the front desk asked for my ID, typed my name, and frowned at her screen. "There's a note on your account," she said. She didn't elaborate. She printed a slip and pointed me toward a desk by the window. The banker pulled up the access log without being asked. Dates, times, IP addresses. The most recent change sat right there. Graduation day, 2 minutes after the ceremony ended. The update changed my contact information and authorized a family review flag. The IP address resolved to my parents' house. The timestamp matched the moment the parking lot camera had been marked under maintenance. "That was the only update?" I asked. She scrolled. For that day, yes. The screen stayed between us. No apology, no reaction, just data. My phone buzzed before I stood up. We did what we had to. Another message followed. "Don't make this ugly." Elaine didn't add a signature. She never needed to. At the co-working space, the desk near the window was taken, so I sat by the printer. Maya slid a coffee over without asking questions. "They left early," she said after I showed her the log. "They weren't late." Of course they weren't. She didn't look surprised. She asked for the screenshot, then another. She named the files with dates and times. No commentary, just organization. At the bank again that afternoon, a different representative asked if my parents could come in. "We'll need the authorized family member present," he said. "I'm the account holder." "Yes, but this was flagged as family authorization." "I didn't authorize it." He nodded like he'd heard that sentence before. A pamphlet appeared on the desk. Steps were highlighted. The word resolution was printed in bold. I asked about temporarily locking access. He said that was possible. He didn't say recommended. The form took 3 pages. A checkbox asked whether the request was voluntary or contested. I checked contested. Another line asked if I had supporting documentation. I left it blank. The email arrived before I left the building. "Thank you for taking steps to protect your family accounts." The wording sat there, cheerful and neutral. It didn't acknowledge the lock or the dispute. It just thanked me. On the bus ride home, the notification repeated. "Case received. Case under review. Please allow 5 to 7 business days." The bus stopped twice longer than usual. Someone argued with the driver about a transfer card. At the branch the next morning, a supervisor joined the conversation. She wore a name badge that listed credentials under her title. She confirmed the review had been escalated. "As a precaution," she said, "the account will be temporarily restricted." "How long?" "Until the review is complete." The question hung there. No time frame followed. "So I can't access it?" She tilted her head. "For now." My phone buzzed again. A message from Elaine appeared and disappeared before I could open it. Another from Robert came through, shorter. Let's talk. The supervisor slid a printed notice across the desk. The header said, Account Status Update. The word frozen appeared twice. She explained the next steps while tapping the paper with her pen. ID verification, statement review, possible outcomes. She didn't look at me when she said possible. At the co-working space, Maya took the paper and read it slowly. They forced your hand, she said. I didn't have enough. Not yet. She pointed at the lock date, the review start time, the system note. This made it worse, she added, not unkindly. I know. Another email landed while she was talking. The subject line said, Internal review initiated. The body explained the temporary suspension of access during the investigation. The cursor hovered over reply. The clock in the corner of the screen ticked forward while the inbox refreshed. Across the room, someone laughed into a headset. The printer jammed again. My phone buzzed once more as the countdown on the bank portal reset, starting over with a new label, the numbers rolling down while the screen loaded. HR called before lunch. The subject line said, Quick check-in. The meeting room had one chair pulled out and a tablet on the table. My manager didn't sit. We need to put you on temporary unpaid leave, he said. The HR rep slid the tablet closer. A policy paragraph was highlighted. Financial irregularities, she added, like it was a category you could browse. How long? Until the bank review concludes. No date followed. No estimate. Just a pause while she waited for a response that didn't come. A signature line appeared on the screen. Acknowledgement only, no admission. They made that clear twice. At home, the mailbox held a thick envelope with a law firm's logo printed neatly in the corner. Elaine's name wasn't on it. The letter inside was addressed to me anyway. It requested my signature, confirming that the student loan funds had been used for shared family expenses. The tone was polite, the deadline wasn't. Maya read it at my kitchen table, careful not to touch the edges. This is the move, she said. What move? Same behavior, different story, same outcome. She laid out the pattern without raising her voice, signing on my behalf, reframing it later, letting the system assume good intent. People hear parents and stop asking questions, she said. The email from graduation sat open on my laptop. Proud of you. Maya asked for the header details. The metadata showed the message had been sent from the desktop at my parents' house, not a phone. The timestamp lined up with the account access log. That message wasn't for you, she said. It was for the timeline. The realization didn't land like a revelation. It just rearranged the order of things. I drove to my parents' house that afternoon. The driveway was empty. A package leaned against the door addressed to my sister. The spare key still worked. The hallway looked the same, shoes lined up, mail stacked neatly. The safe in the office sat behind the filing cabinet where it always had. The code didn't work. I tried again, slower this time. Still nothing. The combination had been changed. My phone buzzed. A missed call from the bank. Another from a number I didn't recognize. On the kitchen counter, a folder labeled Hannah sat half open. Inside were copies of documents I'd never given them. Old tax forms, insurance letters, a printout of my signature scanned cleanly at the bottom. The house felt occupied without anyone being there. Back at the apartment, the bank voicemail explained the next step. Review ongoing. Additional information required. No timeline provided. Another email followed, this one marked urgent, asking me to respond within 48 hours to maintain eligibility. HR sent a second message confirming the leave status. Benefits paused, access revoked. The word collateral appeared once in the attachment, buried in a paragraph about risk management. Maya didn't offer solutions. She drew a grid on a notepad instead, dates across the top, actions down the side. She filled it in with check marks. They didn't improvise, she said. I know. They planned. Another envelope arrived that evening, this one thinner, Elaine's handwriting on the front. Inside was a copy of the lawyer's letter with a sticky note attached. Let's keep this in the family. The apartment was lit by the screen on the table. Everything else stayed off. The chair across from me was empty. Mail sat in uneven stacks. The lawyer's letter lay on top like it had earned the spot. The bank portal showed 0 available balance. HR's last email confirmed unpaid leave was active. The phone stayed face down, not silent, just ignored between vibrations. Paperwork spread across the table in rows, emails printed in black and white, bank logs, screenshots with timestamps. Nothing dramatic, just dates lining up too cleanly. Graduation day went at the top, the ceremony end time, the parking lot maintenance notice, the access log, the digital signature, the proud of you text, all within minutes of each other. Next came the follow-ups. Support transfer stopped, family dinner photos, the HR call, the loan authorization, the lawyer's letter. Same pattern every time. Action first, story later. The mistake wasn't hidden, it was consistent. Family doesn't do that. That belief sat under everything else. It explained why no written boundaries existed, why "let me handle it" was enough, why checking felt unnecessary, almost rude. Emails told the rest of the story. Messages from service providers thanking me for updates I hadn't made, confirmations sent to an address that wasn't mine. Elaine's email appeared over and over in the CC field, sometimes spelled out, sometimes truncated, always present. The table filled up as pages slid into place. Not evidence yet, just alignment. Maya stopped by after 10. She didn't ask how I was. She asked what I had. Insurance documents came out next, old policies from when I still lived at my parents' house. The contact email wasn't mine. It never had been. Utility bills followed. Same thing. My name on the account, Elaine's email on the notifications. They trained the system, Maya said. She pointed at the dates, years back. Small changes, consistent access. They didn't wait for this moment, she added. They prepared for it. The printer at the corner store stayed open all night. A handwritten sign taped to the door said, "Exact change appreciated." The clerk didn't look up when the machine jammed. He cleared it without comment and reset the tray. Paper stacked fast, logs, statements, headers with routing data. Everything got labeled. Nothing got highlighted. The goal wasn't persuasion, it was clarity. Back in the car, the stack sat on the passenger seat, heavier than it should have been. Midnight crept closer on the dashboard clock. The realization didn't come as a rush. It arrived like a checklist. Trusting that family wouldn't cross certain lines, letting tasks move forward without confirmation, treating speed as help instead of control. Each one showed up in writing, no explanation needed. The next step didn't involve calling anyone. No arguments, no clarifications, no family meeting, just process. Maya watched as the files were scanned into a single folder. Compliance, not customer service, she said. The email draft stayed open while attachments uploaded. Subject line clear, neutral. Request for formal review under internal authorization policy. The compliance department address autofilled. So did the bank's internal audit contact. Everything visible, nothing emotional. The time in the corner read 11:56 p.m. The lawyer's letter went in last. The request for my signature stayed unsigned, folded once, and scanned as is. Another message from Elaine arrived while the files processed. Have you thought about it? The phone went back down. 11:58 p.m. The cursor hovered over send while the last attachment finished loading. The clock ticked forward without ceremony. I clicked once. The conference room had no personal touches, just a long table, a speakerphone in the center, and a glass wall facing the hallway. A compliance officer sat at one end with a laptop already open. Another banker joined by video, his face frozen for a second before the feed stabilized. Elaine arrived 5 minutes early, calm, coat folded over her arm. The lawyer walked in with her and didn't introduce himself until someone asked. Robert followed last and took the seat beside her without looking around. The compliance officer started with a summary. Neutral tone. Dates. Account names. A phrase repeated twice. Pattern of authorization. She clicked through slides. Not just one transaction. Several. Different years. Different amounts. All tied back to my name. Temporary holder. Bridge account. Short-term necessity. My name appeared on the screen more times than it should have. This wasn't a single incident, the officer said. It appears the account holder's identity was used repeatedly to facilitate family transactions. Elaine nodded slightly, as if that confirmed something she'd already explained. That's correct, the lawyer said. They were temporary measures. The officer asked when those measures began. Elaine answered without checking notes. After college, she said. Before that, actually, if you include insurance. The slide changed. Old records, utility bills, policies I hadn't thought about in years. Paperwork kept tidy. That phrase suddenly made sense. The officer turned toward me. Were you aware of these authorizations? No. The lawyer leaned forward. Hannah did transfer funds to her parents during this period, he said. Multiple times. A list appeared. Amounts, dates, notes marked family support. These transfers indicate consent, he continued. At minimum, implied authorization. That's not how authorization works, I said. The officer raised a hand, not to stop me, just to slow the pace. That's part of what we're reviewing. Elaine watched without expression. Robert stared at the table. I slid the folder forward. Logs, headers, screenshots. The compliance officer scanned the top page. This shows access from your home network, she said, looking at Elaine. Yes, Elaine replied. I handle paperwork. Hannah was busy. The officer flipped another page. There's no written power of attorney. No, the lawyer said. But there is a documented history of cooperation. Another slide appeared, a chart. My transfers highlighted in blue. The evidence I thought would stop this barely registered. It sat there, labeled insufficient on the margin. The compliance officer paused the presentation. At this point, she said, this appears to be a family misunderstanding. Elaine's lawyer nodded once. Exactly. The phrase landed and stayed. The officer explained next steps. Internal review, expanded scope, timeline undetermined. During this period, she added, restrictions will remain in place. Robert cleared his throat for the first time. We were just trying to help, he said. No one responded. In the hallway afterward, people passed without looking in. Conversations carried through the glass. Someone laughed near the elevators. Elaine gathered her coat. We'll let the process work, she said. The lawyer shook hands with the officer. Elaine didn't. Across the street, the cafe was busy. Elaine ordered tea. Robert took coffee. The lawyer stood. This will resolve, Elaine said, stirring slowly. These things always do. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't rush. We kept things organized, she added. That matters. The phone on the table buzzed, a message from the bank confirming the expanded review. Elaine glanced at it, then slid her chair back. We'll wait, she said. The compliance officer's email arrived before she reached the door. Formal language, scope widened, investigation initiated. The conference room was fuller this time. 2 people from compliance, 1 from legal. Elaine and Robert across from me, seated close enough to look united without touching. A recorder sat in the middle of the table, already on. A banker suggested we step aside first, just to clarify a few things. No, I said. Everything stays here, and everything goes in writing. No one argued. The recorder stayed on. The compliance officer opened a folder and nodded for me to start. I slid the first page forward. This is the system log, I said. It shows the account updates marked as customer name provided verbally by a third party. Elaine glanced at it, then looked up. I don't remember that. Robert cleared his throat. It was probably a misunderstanding, he said. We were just helping. The officer flipped the page. The contact email for multiple services, I continued, was set to Elaine's address, not mine. Elaine leaned back. I handled paperwork for the family, she said. Hannah was busy. That email received confirmations for changes I didn't request, I said. Elaine shrugged once. I don't remember every message. Robert nodded along. It's family stuff, he said. Things get mixed up. The compliance officer typed something without looking up. I slid the next document forward. This is the internal note from your system, I said. It states there was no written authorization on file from me, no power of attorney, no consent form. Elaine's lawyer opened his mouth, then stopped. He glanced at the compliance officer. That note reflects a gap in documentation, he said carefully. It reflects no authorization, the officer replied. She turned the screen so everyone could see the timeline. Dates stacked neatly. Years, not weeks. Repeated actions. Same access points. This shows a pattern, she said, not a one-time event. Elaine's face didn't change. We were managing household finances, she said. She sent money. That shows agreement. The legal rep looked at the chart. Transfers don't equal authorization, he said. They show support. Robert shifted in his seat. She never complained before. I didn't respond. The compliance officer scrolled again. These updates were made without valid consent, she said, and they were repeated. Elaine folded her hands. I was acting in her best interest. The room stayed still for a moment. A banker cleared his throat. So legally, he said, reading directly from the policy summary, she was never obligated. The sentence landed flat, like a checkbox being ticked. Elaine blinked. That can't be right. It is, the banker replied. Without authorization, the obligations don't attach to her. Robert looked at Elaine, then back at the table. We're her parents. The compliance officer nodded once. That's noted, she said, but it doesn't replace consent. The legal rep gathered his papers. At this point, he said, the bank will unwind any obligations listed under Hannah's name and transfer the matter to our legal department for review. Elaine's chair scraped softly as she shifted back. You're saying she owes nothing. I'm saying, the banker replied, her name will be removed from those accounts effective immediately. The recorder clicked as someone marked the time. Elaine's mouth tightened. This is unnecessary, she said. We could have handled this privately. I pushed the final page forward, the unsigned letter from her lawyer, the request for my signature. I'm done handling things privately, I said. No one interrupted. The compliance officer closed the folder. You'll receive written confirmation by end of day, she said, and notice of referral to legal counsel. Robert exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding it the whole time. Elaine stood. This isn't over, she said. The banker didn't look up. The account changes will process now. Elaine paused, then nodded once, sharp and controlled, and walked out. Robert followed without saying anything. The police parking lot wasn't dramatic. Just a few cars, faded lines, and a metal bench near the entrance. Elaine and Robert arrived together and stopped a few steps away, like there was an invisible boundary they didn't want to cross. Elaine spoke first. So this is how you wanted to do it. I didn't choose the location, I said. You asked to meet somewhere public. Robert looked tired, not apologetic, just worn down. The officer inside the building glanced out through the glass, then back to his screen. No one interrupted. Elaine folded her arms. You know we can't access anything now, she said. They locked everything. I know. Her mouth tightened. We're getting calls from family. So am I. Robert stepped forward half a pace. We were trying to keep things together, he said. I'm not here to argue. Elaine exhaled sharply. Then what are you here for? To be clear. They waited. I don't hate you, I said. I'm not paying anything. I'm not signing anything. I'm not authorizing anything. Elaine shook her head. You're overreacting. I'm finished. Robert looked away. The meeting ended without a conclusion. No raised voices, no closure. Elaine walked back to the car first. Robert followed after a pause. At the post office, the line moved slowly. A woman ahead of me argued about a package that hadn't arrived. The clerk repeated policy language without changing her tone. When it was my turn, I slid the envelope across the counter. Inside was the house key. No note, no explanation. Certified, the clerk asked? Yes. She printed the label and pushed it toward me to confirm the address. I nodded and stepped aside. The new apartment was smaller, but closer to work opportunities. The lease was clean. My name stood alone on every page. The landlord handed over the keys and pointed out the utility contacts. Each account required a new login. Each confirmation email came directly to me. The phone number changed that afternoon. So did the email tied to the bank. Old accounts closed one by one. No shared access, no secondary contacts. A cousin texted asking what happened. Another asked if everything was okay with my parents. No one offered an opinion. No one took sides, out loud. The bank email arrived while boxes were still stacked by the door. Your account status is now independent. It sat there, like a system update. No congratulations, no apology, just a statement. I forwarded it to Maya without comment. She replied with a single thumbs up. That night, the last box came apart. Documents went into a new drawer. The folder labeled Hannah stayed thin. It didn't need to be thick anymore. A missed call from Elaine appeared and disappeared without a response. Another from Robert followed. The phone stayed face down. The building settled around me. Someone upstairs dragged a chair. A car alarm chirped once outside and stopped. I placed the new keys on the counter, then moved them into the drawer with the lease. The old number stopped ringing. The new one stayed silent. Another email notification flashed briefly, then slid away as the screen dimmed.